Okay, I'm going to give you an introduction to really basic orthographic sketching. I've got this pencil sharpener. I'm going to try and draw it in orthographic. Orthographic is basically three separate views of the same object. So it's a bird's eye view or a plan view looking straight down on it. And then it's a front elevation directly below that, looking at it effectively from the side, and then an end elevation looking at it from the other side. So you've got to decide how much space you've got on the page to fit it all in and where you're going to fit it. I've printed out a grid. You don't have to print out a grid. You can actually draw a grid very quickly or simply, or you could just jump straight in as long as you use a ruler and go parallel to the edges and the top and the bottom of the page. So I could just go in and draw it straight with a ruler as long as the ruler was horizontal and vertical. Okay, but I can now see the grid underneath, so I'm probably going to use that. I'm going to start by deciding, yeah, I want that to be the plan, or I want that to be the side. Okay, I've decided that's going to be my plan. I'm going to draw it bigger than the actual object, so I'm going to scale it up, but it's basically a square. So as long as I can see a square on the page, then I can sketch it. Now if you don't feel too confident about sketching straight lines straight away, that's not a problem. Use your ruler. No harm in getting a straight edge to help you with straight lines. So this is going to be the plan. I'm going to label it plan, and I can add some features to it. I've got the actual blades. There's one. There's two. They're rounded at the ends. I'll just do those free hands. Somebody in the maths department said I could use a compass for doing this, but just dive straight in. Practice your curves drawing. Other features that I can see on the plan, the two screws, and they're obviously in line. Very simple detail for the screw heads. And the next bit is to project directly down so that we can draw what's called the front elevation, even though it's the side of the pencil sharpener. So I'm going to have to use my ruler and draw down and make sure that the elevation is within these two lines. I can now draw my baseline, which will be the underneath of the pencil sharpener, and although the pencil sharpener is actually angled, I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to draw it as if it was square to make it slightly easier. Decide on a height for the front, decide on a height for the back, and draw those in. And the screws need to be in line. As we'd see those. And we'll call this the front, even though it's the side. One more elevation to go. I'm now going to turn the pencil sharpener around to look at the features here, and we'll call this the end elevation, but we know that the height of it here is going to be the same as the height here, so I've got to do projection lines across to make sure that it's the same width. And to make sure it's the same width, I'm going to look at the width over here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares wide, so make sure that I draw it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares wide. Again, if you want to get your lines perfectly straight, use a straight edge. Okay, now this will be a test because I've got two circles to put on here. Just try and proportionately get them in the correct position. on there, one slightly larger there. Okay, and that is the end elevation. Normally you would add dimensions to this, so if you were to measure it accurately, it's 25 millimeters long, so you would show in millimeters 25. It's 13 millimeters high, and that's 13 millimeters high. You put it on its side because it's always on top of the arrow, and widthways here is the same as widthways here, and that's also 25. So even though I've not drawn it to any particular scale, anybody looking at it can actually see the size of the object because it's always in millimeters shown. And that's three very simple views of the pencil sharpener in orthographic projection. Okay.